So here we go. So did you want to?
Okay. So welcome everyone. So glad that we have such a nice big group today. My name is Sharon Boson. I became de facto chair when Jonathan moved on to other opportunities, and he may be coming by at some point. But I feel pretty confident that with Donald's support and all of you, we have everything under control. Donald has been outstanding with keeping everything moving forward and tracking all of our current activities. So I just wanted to say that the goal is to keep everything moving, continue to move in the right direction here. Right, Donald? So I'm going to let you kind of guide us through with the MOTA initiation.
Sure. Actually, so, of course, this is DC. MOTA actually called to state that they will have to reschedule for one of our newest members, Antonio Myers. Hey, Antonio. To get officially sworn in. They were going to arrive. That was the first item they asked to be on top of the agenda to do so, and then we could move forward with business with the SRC. So I will work with Janae Washington, who is the liaison at MOTA now. Very active. Has a lot to do with a lot of the new faces at this table, and arrange for you to get sworn in at another date and time, Antonio. But, we love to have you here. Abe can attest to having to be here a few times as a pending member. He's official now, but we will get it done as soon as possible. So happy to have you here. Thank you. Yes.
How many members still need to be filled in?
Right now we have someone by the name of Melissa Stevens from AU. She's pending, as well as Antonio, and that's it.
So there's no other spaces open?
There are. Just to bring you up to date, Matt, what we've really been struggling with is the business industry seat. We've had potential candidates. However, what we run into as a roadblock is DC residency. MOTA is really firm, in particular, with that seat, being represented someone who's a resident of the district. So I have employed a couple other times, and now that we have a bigger group, we can all get all hands on deck to see a good candidate to fill that seat.
So I can give a little bit of insight for folks on that. I met with some business owners here in the district, and one of the things that we run into is that people want to have businesses here, but they can't afford to live here. And a lot of the people that I'm meeting are small business owners. So that's where that's falling. So just so you all know, when you're going out and about and talking to people and meeting new faces and different events and so forth, it can't hurt to ask.
And to add on to that, we have someone now from the WIC, Antonio, Susan from the WIC, I can't remember her last name, I have to look it up, who's going to be a member of the SRC. So maybe we can reach out to her to see what businesses are in contact with them.
So would Diego be a good option? He tries to start up businesses and stuff. Diego, I can't remember his last name. Yeah. He may be interested in serving on the SRC, and so he clearly has received RSA services in the past, so he may be a good option.
Okay. Thank you for that, Matt. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Matt. I neglected to say one other thing. While we are all sitting here, why don't we go around and do a quick introduction, your name, and what your affiliation to the SRC. So I'll start. I'm Sharon Boson, and I am a parent of a child with disabilities, and I live on Capitol Hill.
Yep. I'm Cadis. I'm a clinical program manager for Children's National Medical Center, and my interest in disability arises from I'm doing a doctoral study, so it's I don't have a child, but all children are my children. Yeah.
Sorry, I apologize.
That's okay. Of course, it's at the very bottom when you're trying to get to
it. Jesus. Let me turn it off.
All right.
Which I should have did. I apologize, everyone.
That was just a part of your introduction. That's all. Hi, everyone. I'm Donald Clark. I'm with DDS under the Office of Policy and Innovation. I also serve as the liaison to the SRC.
Hi, I'm Marjorie Gillert, and I am the State Rehabilitation Council. This is embarrassing.
No.
I'm sorry, my phone went off. I do apologize. I'm Commissioner Gillert, and I was sworn in by Mayor Bowser on November the 18th to be a part of the State Rehabilitation Council.
Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Darrell Evans, and I'm the Deputy Director for RSA.
Awesome. Pleasure's mine.
I'm Ricky Wright, Program Manager for VR Services with RSA.
Oh.
I'm Angela Spinella. I'm Program Manager, RSA Transition Unit.
Good morning, my name is Matthew McCall. I'm an ETC head for ODR, the ED Compliance Office for the District Government. I'm a non-voting government official. I was previously the chair of the SRC prior to Mayor Bowser putting me into my current role. I've been serving on the SRC since 2009.
I am Abraham Hyatt. I'm an attorney with Disability Rights DC University Legal Services. We are the protection and advocacy organization for the District of Columbia, which is every state has one of them, that is created and funded by federal law to advocate for individuals with disabilities in the District of Columbia in our case. And we're a mandatory member on this committee. So.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Berta Mata, and I am a partner well, he's 23 already, Eric Mata, and I am a bilingual education and support specialist from Advocate for Justice in Education.
Hi, my name is Antonio Myers. I actually have autism, and I'm a former client of EDS and RSA.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much.
Disabled.
Okay, so with that.
So, the second item, this is the first meeting really to kick off the fiscal year for the SRC. And I just thought it was a good time to reflect on what has worked and not worked in the previous, history of the SRC since at least I've been on board. And two items we've always consistently brought to the table at the SRC meetings are the budget detail from the RSA, as well as the progress report towards the state plan goals. Just my input and feedback about the experience is that it quite doesn't work as well if we bring that type of information at the time of the meeting. It's something you really should digest and then come to the meeting to, really prepare to have a fruitful discussion with the RSA. So, I would advise that we submit those two important reports prior to the meeting. I just wanted to ask RSA as well, what is a realistic time for them to get that information to the SRC prior to the actual meetings, speaking to the budget detail and then the state plan, progress report there.
Just based on the meeting times, I don't know if this is more pragmatic to do quarterly, where usually when it closes out the quarter, there's usually the 10-day cycle for the accounting. So once the 10-day cycle of accounting is ended, then you get a true picture of where we are for the quarter. We can either do it that way, or we can do the month ending prior to that next meeting. So I would ask the SRC members to kind of think about what that looks like. If you want a quarterly report, it would just have to coincide with what the quarter date end is, and then there'd be a 10-day lag time for us to get OCFO to close out, and then operations would send us what that looks like. So
Matt?
that probably is more comprehensive for you guys, because it gives you the whole quarter snapshot, and you can see what's happened in a 3-month period.
Absolutely.
As opposed to a 1-month snapshot that's going to, it's very varied, because we don't know. Maybe we had 50 clients that we seen and there was something special, or we had 10 and nothing special. But at the quarter, at least you get a snapshot of what's happened in those first 3 months. So you guys can decide, and then we'll coordinate having a report for that quarter where it's applicable on that date.
Yeah, Donald, I agree. I'll second that motion for sure. I think that information has always been so much to take in, and it takes up so much valuable time that we have, and because, again, we don't meet that often. So it's good to spend that time having fruitful discussion. So do you have a recommendation, Matt, with your vast experience and knowledge?
So I know you guys have been getting a lot of pressure from the federal government in terms of making sure that the numbers are met and things keep moving. So it may be helpful for the group to understand what pressures or what expectations are being placed upon you going forward, so we understand how can we better support you in those endeavors, if that any case. So I know that they're paying much more closer attention about how our people are achieving stage 26s and such information needs to be in order. It would be helpful for this group to understand what those expectations are being placed upon you in terms of understanding the data that you're getting.
Okay. And just at a high level, I'll just bring that out. So there is a heightened scrutiny from our federal partners that doesn't necessarily align with what we've submitted to the city as a goal, because the federal government now is more about the quality of employment, because it's competitive and it's integrated, as opposed to just sheer numbers, because you're not talking about Ability One anymore, and you're not talking about sheltered workplaces. That's not what we're talking about. It's about quality. Is the wage competitive, right? Is the setting really integrated? Is everything comprehensible and everybody is equal inside the workplace? So under the WIOA auspice, so when you're looking at these numbers under WIOA now, they're looking at second quarter after exit, fourth quarter after exit, credential attainment, measurable skills gains. It's really kind of a quantitative look now, as opposed to, well, they had 700 successful 26s. That doesn't necessarily mean 700 successful stories, because if you're sending people into janitorial skills and they have business degrees, that's not competitive and it's not integrated, and it's not really the true success. So when we're looking at the numbers, we're talking about quantitatively, what does the wage look like? Does the wage equal at least $15 an hour, which is going to be standard in the district coming up in July? Or is it $14? And if it's $14, why is it? Because that's sub-minimum wage for us, and then that would be a violation. So they're looking at those kind of intricacies. Are we having the contacts with folks after they're employed? So that's the second quarter after exit. That's the fourth quarter after exit, to make sure that folks are still gainfully employed, and we're just not shoveling people into something for 90 days, and then they come back and we get another successful closure. That's not what it's about. It's about long-term successes. So there is that kind of pressure. And then under WIOA, there's the 15% match that we have to make on the maintenance of effort for youth. And that's the pre-ETS services, which is huge, because if you're talking about a $24 million budget and there's 15% that has to go for youth, we actually have to capture 14 and 15-year-olds. Well, 14 and 15-year-olds aren't going to be successful stories for employment. They're successful stories for education and planning when they get to be seniors and juniors, right? So those pressures really do change. What's the measure of success? So when you're looking at that 15%, what do we do to capture the 14 and 15-year-olds, the 16 to 22-year-olds, Are we having conferences to kind of set them up for success for educational opportunities, secondary education? Are we setting them up for success for vocationary success? Are we catching the folks that school isn't their thing, but we know they need to work, right? When they're 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, and they're graduating, 20, 21, 22, what are we doing to set them up for success to be employed? And there has to be 15% spent. You have to look at our geography. It's DC, and its geography is small, right? So that's a lot of money. 15%, you're talking about $2 to $3 million that has to be spent strategically to show some kind of growth. So there are a lot of budget pressure. So when you guys are looking at that quarterly report, I think what we'll try to do is kind of break it down based on the metrics, and I'll talk to the budget folks. We'll see if we can't break it down into kind of the categories that WIOA has for performance indicators for us. And then when you're looking at it, you can kind of say, okay, so this measure makes sense. So 2 quarters after exit, they captured this much wage data, and then this is the hourly wage that's currently in RSA for the district. So Matt, you're right. I appreciate you pointing that out. So when you're looking at it, it is an exercise where you're going to want to take a week or two to really kind of unfurl it, so it makes some kind of comprehensive steps when you're coming back to ask questions.
And just real quick, when is the next quarterly report? Like when?
Quarter ends in December for us, so we would have a report in January, which would give us a report to you folks for the first quarterly review of these meetings hold true in March.
That would work. That'd be great. Does that work for everyone?
And just to add on top of that, in addition to the budgets, what is the stance? Do we move forward with, Daryl, how we've been doing, submitting the progress towards the actual state plan goals? Do you think we need to think of a way to streamline that? You know, the long Excel sheet.
It's a long list, and I think what we would ask the SRC to do is to take a look at all the goals that we have set before us. Well, there's 4 major goals that we've agreed to between the SRC and the program, but there's so many objectives underneath it. Maybe what we would like to do is have SRC look at those and then highlight. We can go through and highlight what's really important at that moment and maybe report it that way, because again, you're talking about pages of information that you can't capture in a 2-hour meeting. You just can't, and you can't talk about it substantively. And what I would like to do is for especially our parents and our clients, really ask those questions. You know, what are you doing for my son or my daughter? How is this objective to serve them? And we can't get to that if we're talking about 70 items. So I'd like to, Donald, what I think we need to do is just get the Excel that we use. Let's dumb it down and have it where it has the topics without all that content. So certainly give the SRC all of the content so they can see where we're at today. But then let's get it bullet pointed out, and then we can highlight those that you guys want to talk about. We can capture them all, but let's highlight them in the courses of the meetings. So we want to take 10 things and really talk about the progress. We can deep dive if people have more questions. I don't want to just gloss over something if somebody has some questions.
Yeah, I think this is a really great conversation. I'm not sure how many of you recall previous meetings when we just sat here and everybody went over everything in a very thorough fashion. But yeah, you just kind of it's a lot.
It is.
It's a lot, and we want to be productive in this time. So that makes sense. How will you be able to distribute it? Would you then upload it?
Will we upload it on the landing page, or should I just send it out to the members via email?
I think we should send the master one. Let's send out to everyone.
Okay.
So everybody has a copy. They can digest it in their own time. And then we can post kind of what we're talking about.
Okay.
That's the highlight of the meeting. We can post that for everyone to see. I think everybody should have their own copy so they can kind of look at it. And if they have questions, certainly feel free. And one thing I want to make sure is very open, that we have lines of communication, even if it's via email. So if we get through a meeting and we haven't captured something, let's still keep the lines of communication open, send it to us. And we'll answer as soon as we possibly can. We shouldn't be expected to answer in a certain amount of time, but send it so that we can keep the dialogue rolling. Because, for how long over the year that I've been here, the last meetings have felt a lot more open and constructive and involved, as opposed to the first that really seemed kind of oppressive and just, it's not us against them, it's us collectively trying to do better for the citizens that we're supposed to support. And I wanted to feel that way. I wanted us to feel really included, because when we wrote the state plan this year, we really talked about our partnership with the SRC, and it's really, you guys are driving what we do. The goals are set off of what the SRC is really saying. This is what the district needs to concentrate on. We know we need to ramp up services in Wards 7 and 8, underserved and unserved populations. We know we need to have better outcomes for all of our RSA clients. What does that look like? So we're going to need your input, and I want it to look like we are walking hand in hand and feel like we're walking hand in hand to get this stuff done. So make sure, Donald, that we do have that track.
Will do. And just to, I know we're talking about standardizing everything right now. However, just looking further down the road, we pushed the reset button on a WEO estate plan as far as 2020. And with that being said, at the midway mark, we have the opportunity for modification. And that leaves, if we have the discussion now, it leaves plenty of time for us to really look at, we weren't afforded to do so through this start, but streamlining. Again, the objectives, all those strategies and objectives, and maybe SRC has a role to play in that for 2022 midpoint mark to work towards that.
Absolutely.
Because the VR section's a bear.
It is.
And I don't know if it necessarily, I leave that up to RSA and SRC to really see if we can streamline it and pare it down.
Theoretically, what I'd like to do, because I feel good about where we're heading as a committee, is when we sit down to look at the revisions for 2022, that we take one of these sessions to do that. So that we really are comprehensively talking about, have we accomplished what we set out to do in the goals that we set forth in the original plan? And then in 2022, if there's objectives that can be removed, if there's something that needs to be put in, if we need to reestablish what the goals are, I would really hope that can be done here. I really do, because as we've written this unified state plan, and WIC and OSSI and others are involved in that, it's nowhere near the length and context of what RSA has to go back to Department of Ed. It's not Department of Labor that looks at what we need. It's a completely different approval stream. Department of Ed, and when you're talking about Department of Ed, they're statisticians, they're people that are looking for the process, right? They're looking for quantitative. When you're talking about Department of Labor, they're looking for numbers of employment. We measure so many other things that we have to have something that's really comprehensive. So I think your help is going to be great in that advent to really kind of hammer that out, right? It shouldn't be static where it's really we dictated to the SRC what we're doing. That's counterintuitive. That's like the police policing themselves. Right? It just makes no sense that way. Right? So that really is the vision as we go.
That's good.
And just to share with the SRC, so got a lot of new people through the front door to the SRC, but now we're required to do ethics training. So what I'll do is send out the schedule for that to all the members, so you can register to get your training it's an orientation of what it means to be on a board or a council, and requirements, things of that nature. And then I just wanted to transition to, and I've kind of done this before, is what do you think the SRC could really, amongst yourselves discuss and say, hey, this is what we're really going to try to push forward? Our primary, you have a lot of goals, but what is our initiative? What do you want to put an imprint on? I have offered before that, DDS is going through kind of a shift in itself in the future to technology first. And that means a lot for people with disabilities, whether it's in the community or residentially in their homes, but also employment. And I've had the opportunity to go to a lot of conferences to see other states and how they're really looking towards technology as another potential support to bridge the gap, to achieve goals, and be more independent. And in my opinion, what I've seen is a lot of focus on community integration and how tech supports that, and also in the home again. Of course, any tech that supports community integration is a bridge to getting to work or things of that nature. But really, I want to have more teeth with the employment piece. You know, I think what is overwhelming sometimes is, for example, what could be the most impactful piece of tech is apps. But my goodness, you can go to the Apple Store now and it's like piles and piles of apps. Which one is of quality? You know, that type of thing. So I don't know. It's just something to propose to the SRC. And not only that, we do have the AT Council, and, you know, always leveraging opportunities, partnerships and resources. Is there some type of partnership that could be had to really, you know, explore that and bring something to the table? I also previously had the chair from the Commission for People with Disabilities come and present. She's very active in the community. There is some overlap with, you know, employment outcomes here at SRC and their interest in employment for people with disabilities. So again, another potential opportunity for partnership, and definitely with the commission is that they have a really active calendar. So anything you can identify or connect with her, that may be opportunity for collaboration there as well. I can always reach out to her, Camila Proctor, to see when their next meeting is. I think in good faith, since she actually came to SRC, maybe a member from the SRC can go over to the commission and really bridge that gap. So just some things to toss out there. I really, just leave it up to SRC to really think of, what is that you really want to push forward, and where are the other pieces of the puzzle to make that happen. So.
Sure, I think those are all great ideas, and I like the idea of technology because it covers everyone. And some of the things that we were talking about earlier, the immigrant community and students in general. So I think I had mentioned to you, Donald, when I first came on board, we had a representative from DCPS come in to the SRC and talk about what DCPS was doing with students and hearing about these two critical age groups. It's good to be able to put that together. Obviously on the younger end, more so. But once you have that educational piece through DCPS and students know what resources are available, then the parents, hopefully, if they're able to support and help, but the students, they need to understand where to go and where to find things themselves. And I mean, my daughter she's 13 now, but she was diagnosed in 4th grade, and empowering her to understand these things at 13 is just going to make her stronger. So I want to share that, and hopefully we can encourage that. But then you were talking about the immigrant community. We were talking a little bit earlier and what the mayor was doing.
Yes. I was discussing a little bit, it's out of the prism of the district government, but I happened to travel with the mayor about 3 weeks ago to establish a sister city relationship between Washington, D.C. and Ethiopia. So at that meeting, I was trying to see how we can forge a relationship. I don't know whether we have a global outlook yet, but that's something we can see because there are a lot of Ethiopian immigrants, especially in D.C., the majority it seems, and not necessarily Ethiopians, but there are a lot of immigrants. How do we reach out to those people? What are the mechanisms to reach out? Are we really reaching out? I know, for example, Amharic, the language, is an official language of the district government. But again, there are other communities who cannot communicate. So how do we reach out? All those things. And I guess I can say assistive technology is a universal language, not necessarily, and it can reach out everyone and everyone. One of the best thing I saw was there is a group aging with dignity or something like that, I'm sorry, and how they use assistive technology to their advantage. And the same thing with disability, people with disability, that can be a good tool to have. But again, forging a relationship is a little bit, I can think of everything, but for example, with Miss Proctor, she was here, I was here when she came here, but one of the things is having a follow-up is being difficult. I wrote a huge letter in trying to, but the response was not there. So how do we do that? How do we be practical about it? We have all of us here have interest, but the practicality part is the hardest thing to do. So I don't know if we can help each other and find out a constructive way of doing it, then it would be great. Yeah, we have a common interest. Our common denominator is people with disabilities. So there is nothing ambiguity about our interest. Usually things are not done when we don't have a common interest, right? So, sorry, I talked too much.
Does anybody else have any comments on some initiative for this year?
So I think GDS, I know GDS does a lot of work with DOES. DOES is focusing on using assistive technology for their seniors and stuff like that. I think there's great opportunities for us to align our missions. We seek the same thing, but I think we don't do a great job simply collaborating, because I think when DOES recognizes that the person gets services through RSA, that's solely RSA's responsibility, but RSA in the end is only responsible for giving the DC resident the original accommodations to obtain the employment of their choosing. I really think that DOES should take on a greater responsibility to recognize that they need to be inclusive of all of the communities, and I realize that you guys have struggled with that over the past 10 years, and I don't know how we can change the mindset, but the fact that that there's constant challenges making them understand that they have a much greater responsibility to the whole community versus just people without disabilities. That mindset needs to be changed. In terms of assistive technology, I know you guys work a lot with School Talk, and really fostering the leadership of young people with disabilities, and there's opportunities for SRC in terms of using people, in order for people to effectively use assistive technology, you need to realize what their accommodations are that would allow them to use that assistive technology more effectively. And so there's an opportunity for our young folks for the past several years to really have our young people clearly understand that it's clearly fine having a disability. It's much more important for them to understand what limitations are they facing and how does the assistive technology improve their lives in the long run. And so I think there's opportunities to work more with what School Talk does and really work with the young people in terms of really having them being educated that having disabilities is simply natural, and using the assistive technology piece is simply cool. So
I think both are fantastic points, Matt. You'll be happy to know that I went to the last WIC board meeting, and we had a very poignant discussion as they were putting up. I'll kind of preface that. We had prominent leaders in the community who were business leaders. We had deputy mayors. We had department heads. And as we looked at the way that they mapped the district and employment opportunities and getting people employed, there was no mention of people with disabilities, which is a fair embarrassment when you have that much power and energy in the room and you're really talking about effectuating a change. And so I just brought to the forefront that, hey, why are we not included as a population? It's paramount. Not only is it a win-win when you hire someone with a disability simply because of the work ethic and the loyalty and the morality of it, but it's the right thing to do. And so as we're talking about this, how come we haven't been included? And so we had some takeaways, and I was able to meet with the WIC director, and we're looking at hiring a common FTE so that they can live in our world and we live in their world, and they can really be on the ground seeing what this means and how it would affect our communities. Tantamount to that, last week we met with their business engagement folks. So we're part of that process. So I think the initiative is fantastic. You're right. So we are moving in that direction, and we should be held to a standard to make sure that something else happens. I liked what you said about the youth. This is our transition program manager, and she comes from DCP. She's a former teacher, so she gets it, and she's lived in the world, and I think she's going to be able to bring something to the table for the initiative to really talk about what we're doing with School Talk. We've gotten some enhanced training for all of the counseling staff now that will be contiguous throughout the 12-month period of the year. It'll be an online platform that will address some of these things. So I'm glad that you're pointing this out. We should be able to report out as we're making progress with both of those.
That's great.
Yeah, and just to speak to School Talk, over the summer, they of course had their annual Jumpstart program, which is our collaboration with the Department of Employment Services Summer Youth Employment Program. And so part of that program was that students did a virtual resume. At their reception, there was mock interviews where the students, if they were not a student who, some of them were students with autism, and if they had trouble with communications, they were using the iPads as part of the process for the mock interviews. So some of that work is starting. I think it's just building upon what's already in place. And then to speak to DC Public Schools, I think, it definitely would be helpful to have a representative here, and also the public charter schools. We wouldn't want to leave them out as well. But I think just the more people we can have at the table, I think getting perspectives from multiple agencies is always helpful to move the work forward in terms of outcomes for our youth with disabilities. So I appreciate your
Definitely
comments.
with the charters. I actually pulled my daughter from DCPS and put her in a charter. She's around the corner. So
So I think both are important.
Yeah, I agree, and I want to make a note of that. But yeah, definitely let's try to keep that conversation moving forward and not lose sight of it somehow. Donald, I'm not sure what that looks like.
We can reach out to, DCPS and our POC with the Public Charter School Co-op, and we can invite them if that's something the SRC thinks they would like to do at the next meeting. I'm happy to make that.
I think definitely with the charter schools, because they seem to be more of a challenge for us to get memorandums of agreements with. And that would be so instrumental in allowing students with disabilities that attend charter schools to really understand our services, get connected to pre-ETS services, employment services, get an outlook even on secondary education, vocational programs where RSA is going to be the support. Right? Where we have ends at colleges where we have the disability counselors so that they know what supports they're going to need when they get to college, and they know a place to go and what to have. And we've just struggled with charter schools signing memorandums of agreements.
Have you had MOUs with DCPS?
We have an MOU and an MOA.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Well, then maybe that's something that we can.
Is that the MOU that governs the counselors in the schools and things like that?
It does. So it speaks to the counselors in schools, but more importantly, what it does for us is we've given DCPS money to hire folks to simply work with you. So they have 7 or 8 folks on DCPS staff that do pre-ETS and transition work. So under the MOU, we pay for it, but they live and breathe in the schools.
And you also have some counselors that like a few days a week or whatever, 1 day a week will report to the schools also?
It's 1 to 2 times a month.
Okay.
They don't have the capacity to go once a week into schools. We just don't have the staff for that. But yeah, there are counselors who are regularly assigned to schools, public, charter, and non-public schools. We also have sites such as DYRS, Incarcerated Youth Program, Youth Services Center, Court Social Services. So we have a lot of alternative sites as well that counselors are connected to, so that those students are also getting, CFSA is another one, so that those students are really getting connected with services, especially for the more vulnerable populations.
Can I ask Angela, and I know stuff high level with this all, but is there an opportunity to get a better reach from the counselor's presence at schools to do it remotely through tech? So, for example, DDA side, they're looking at direct support professionals, providing that support to people in their homes remotely. So through live audio and video. And being able to then have a better schedule, like I guess because you don't have to physically be there, but you still have the video and audio presence to interact with the student, the counselor, and do what they need to do, and then can immediately, go to another feed to do it at another school or what have you. Bless you.
That's actually a good idea, because if you're thinking about it, and I didn't mention this when we were talking about the WIC, but we have counselors in all of the AJCs in the city. So 5 days a week during the AJCs. And then what we're doing in Wards 7 and 8 is actually incorporating the employment coordinators as well. So that you'll have these 2 factions from RSA that will have a constant presence. I don't see, as long as it wouldn't violate the school rule.
Right, it would have to be
BSD. We could be in schools theoretically 5 days a week. We really could, because they could alternate. Maybe they have 2 schools where they do video conferencing for the first 2 hours of the day, and then they do video conference for the last 2 hours of the day. So it does, that's a great suggestion, because it could be a broader reach. In person's impossible just because of the staffing numbers, but I think assistive technology certainly could work to our benefit.
So in those, forgive me, in the average session where a teacher is assigned, where a counselor is assigned to a school and they're there, once a month, what space are they taking up? What are they doing? Like, how many people are they seeing and things like that? Are they seeing dozens and dozens and dozens of students?
It varies by school.
For sure.
And no, it's not dozens and dozens. So they use, typically a counselor says, hey, I'm coming to the school today. They spend their day doing pre-ETS sessions, but also intakes. So they have to balance their day with pre-ETS sessions with a group of students, and then also intakes, which are one-on-one. So you can't provide it. You can't do group intakes.
And they're probably also getting a sense of the school and the community and
what's
happening.
It varies by school.
Yeah.
So there's some schools that are very active with RSA, and we have counselors in certain charter schools that they see consistently this X number of students, and it's very regular. It depends on the school, and it depends on the school culture. It's variable.
And we are monitored on that. So when RSA comes in, okay, you were at this public school, and this counselor had 100 hours of pre-ETS services. Why? Because at this school they had 400. What's the, what is the gap? Why is it like that? And there's a varied number of reasons, but just for your edification, we are monitored, so we watch that.
So I'm just going to take a quick moment and thank Jonathan Luke, who's joined us here. And thank you for resigning your position, I think. But no, thank you for your service, and I'm glad that you were able to join us today.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's kind of weird just to go out to the ether without coming back and really saying thank you to everyone. I wasn't looking for a new position. I got stalked via Facebook. Not LinkedIn. I guess it's what LinkedIn's for. But it was a great opportunity in Northern Virginia, and still serving people with disabilities. I'm working for the National Industries of the Blind, and doing a lot of the same work, plus a lot more, but trying to get those folks into the workforce, working with large companies, creating training programs, and we have a huge business. I'm doing the services side of the business as well. But this has been a great privilege over the last 4 years to be around people at this table, seeing the hard work that's been put into making people's lives better. I've really enjoyed working with Donald Clark over the last, for a long time, but especially the last year or so. Thanks to Deputy Director Evans and for your leadership, and of course, thank you for stepping up to the plate. And I'm a little bit slightly feel bad about that year-end report.
We haven't gotten there yet.
But if you need anything from me, of course, feel free to contact me. But best of luck. Again, thank you for the privilege of being a part of this great team.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we know you always got your ear to the street, so any cool new things you think could be impactful to the district through your new work, please send it our way so we can look into it.
Absolutely. And we've got, so I'm located on Potomac Avenue off of Route 1, really short distance from here, discount all the damn traffic. And we're in a brand new $53 million building. We have a great training facility, and I know we want to keep things in the district, but I just wanted to extend out to you guys. It's always available. That place is always available for us. You all should use anytime you wish.
Thank you. Thanks. Wonderful.
And we'll keep you abreast of the training programs I'm putting in place, and if it helps folks here, I would love to extend that out to you as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So as far as the collaborative initiative that we'll have for the year, how do we want to proceed with? Does anybody have any other thoughts on that topic, key initiative for the SRC? And this is not the end of it. So if you have ideas outside of our time here today, you're welcome to share them with Donald or myself or anybody on the council.
Well, one thing I was going to ask is maybe we've discussed the AT Council and the Commission for Persons with Disabilities. Maybe one member could agree to go to their meetings, get a feel for it, see where it may align, where it fits with the SRC. And then what I can do is send you out the points of contacts for those councils or the commission for you to reach out to them and bridge that gap.
Do we have, can we ask for a volunteer from today's meeting to go
to
either of those?
Sure. I mean, it would be best if it's an SRC member to go. But yeah, sure.
Okay.
You want volunteers? Any volunteers?
We need a volunteer, and I know that somebody will do it.
It depends
and this is
on
just
what day.
Okay.
It's usually the third Thursday. We meet on a monthly basis.
On Thursday.
Yeah, the third Thursday. The DC Commission person.
I'm pretty sure my organization has someone on the AT Council. I might be wrong about that. Maybe not. I think it might be a similar arrangement as
Mornings, afternoons?
It's usually 10 to 12 in the morning. So I only
very-
know this because the DC Commission is within my office.
Oh, I see.
Matt knows everything. He's over there holding it all.
Matt can tell.
Yeah. I can tell when he grins, he knows.
Yeah.
Right? That's been my signal as
Yeah.
well. Is that something that you can take on?
I'll try.
I'll take a try.
Yeah, I'll try.
I'll accept try.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Donald. We have a try.
We haven't tried.
Yeah, that sounds like that's great. And I'll shoot you the Camille practice contact information and everything.
That's the same person I was trying to reach.
Yeah. Oh,
Which
yeah.
is perfect.
In that case,
I'll put my name attached to it.
Okay.
Say, so I reached out to you.
Yes.
This is part 2.
That's worse.
Yeah. And just to add on to, again, I did not RSA in the SRC just survived the WEO estate plan. And then we got hit with that the SRC annual is due December the 30th. I've already spoken to Daryl and Ricky as far as what pieces of information need to be provided to the SRC. So we're trying to make this as easy of a process for you to complete the plan and get it out by December the 30th. So I think I asked by December 16th, COB, to have everything to then hand over to SRC to review and then make recommendations on how to move forward, or suggestions on how RSA should move forward pertaining to their progress.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in this document, is this like the document that I did
Yeah.
last year? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's fine.
Okay.
I have, the document.
Okay.
So this is what Jonathan was just alluding to.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy to just work with you on it.
Okay. Awesome. And just looking ahead, CSNA, Comprehensive Statewide Needs Assessment,
Yep.
is conducted every 3 years. The last one was in 2017. So therefore, 2020, we're due for a new assessment.
It's just like we just did one yesterday.
It feels like it. Really? So, yeah, of course, the SRC has always, my understanding, has always been involved with, development of the plan. So I wanted to put that in your minds for what to anticipate. And when do we really, get there?
Well, it's usually a 6-month process to develop it. So we'll be looking at getting the solicitation out sometime in January. We're working on a statement of work now. We're hopeful that when it goes out to bid, that we have the organization that's been doing it, if they're available, if they win the bid, come in and do it, so it will be not such a heavy lift to reteach someone about DC and DC's demography and geography. So really getting the solicitation out, we'll try to solid that up by the end of January, and then really start working on the plan through February, and that the 6 months leading to the end of the year. The SRC will have a big part of that. They will actually sit with the vendor, and they will have some input, as well as just having some input as a committee. So just to put it on the radar.
And I'm sorry, Daryl, I forgot, we do have new members. Can you give the purpose of the CSNA, what it really aims to?
Yeah, the comprehensive
needs
assessment. Really at a high level, it just talks about what the needs of the district are from a RSA standpoint. That's the very high level. So where we need to concentrate our efforts, if we're looking at the underserved or unserved populations in the district, to talk about immigrants, Ward 7, Ward 8, students 14 to 15 under Yale Hospice. If there needs to be more outreach, if there needs to be more concentration on a wage enhancement, if there is more concentration on disability rights, if there's a high incidence of litigation, do we need to revisit our policies and procedures? Are we doing things in a way that need to be augmented? So it really is a whole assessment of what comprehensively needs to happen in RSA for the program to be successful. That's really in a nutshell.
It might be helpful for this group to see the previous assessment. I have the deck that we've shared with I'll send it to you, Donald, so you all can see what they did.
And just piggyback on that, I did primarily send it to the newest members who have been on board as far as the 2017 CSNA, the state plan, and of course the previous SRC annual. I emailed that out yesterday.
Oh.
But the slide may be beneficial too, because
higher level to see what the big bucket items are that we have to focus on.
Because you're not going to want to read everything.
Right. Yeah. I don't know why I did that to y'all. So the slide is definitely.
I'll send you the slide
yeah, thank
that
you.
we have presented.
Okay, great.
We appreciate you, Don.
Yeah, I'm trying. Feed your information. But just wanted to recap on a few things we've identified. Number one is that I will send out the Board of Ethics schedule to everyone. Number two, Matt, I'll put you on this one. Just be so kind. Diego, would you be able to reach out to Diego if you have a relationship with him to explain the SRC if he's interested?
Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You sell it.
Yeah. And number three, Cadiz, you will reach out to Camille. I'll attach myself, try to get on with the commission. What I'll do is also with the AT Council, being that I'm actually kicking off the Tech First initiative here at DDS, and I'm also a liaison for the SRC, I can probably go there and try to connect the dots and see where the pieces fit, bring it back to the table in regards to tech. Number 4, we do have a new member, I think I stated, from the WIC, who will be joining us. They were just identified by MODA to join us, since Deborah Pavick is no longer here in the district with the WIC, Susan. So hopefully we'll have her here at our next March meeting. I'll get her up to date. I've already been in contact with her on what's been transpiring. So I'll continue to have those discussions. We'll also hopefully have by our March meeting Melissa Stevens from American University to be a new member as well, sworn in. We re-engaged Jennifer Carpenter from OSSI to get her back on board and active with the SRC. Yolandra Plummer is from UDC. She has been sworn in. I need to reach out to her to see, what's going on, because now that she's officially on board, she can get active. So, and then of course we have Marjorie now on board, and Antonio. And Antonio, I'd also like to, in the future hear from you. A lot of people don't know that you've had a pursuit to become a DSP. So I think you know what support looks like or what's missing to effectively support people with disabilities. And I think that is, very important information to have. Yeah.
Did you reach out to Damian Miller from the RKDC?
No.
I think I sent you that before I left, but not. I will resend you his contact information today.
Okay.
He's a young guy. He's very dynamic, and I think he would add to this group.
Okay. Thank you, John.
So is he the new you?
New part of me. So he's overseeing the program, basically the RKDC with some support from the national office. So yeah, he took one half of my job.
Part of it. One half. One thing I did miss, and we'll work in house with that, is trying to look at again that state plan progress report and how we can streamline it, right? And of course have that budget detail ready by the next March meeting. How much ahead of time again did we say? So I can get that down.
Well, it'll be nice here because it's in March,
right?
And in January, we'll have the numbers in January.
Okay.
So we can actually probably get that out to the SRC by the end of January.
Perfect.
And you'll have a full month to kind of digest it by the time we come back. And if you have questions, we can cover it in detail.
Okay.
That's fine. Great. Thank you.
And then on the policy side, is there anything coming down the pipeline? I know that there was just a policy committee that the sanctions talked about it. But is there anything else like on the horizon?
We're still looking at the biggest one that we're really looking at right now is it's more the SOP relative to the DDA RSA collaboration. Working with people who are referred from DVH with ID.
Okay.
That's a big one that we're looking at right now. It's done. I can't think if there's any that are.
The sanction one is still in progress. I'm trying to remember the other ones we discussed at the last policy meeting. I think those are the big ones right now.
The only other major one is the Department of Ed approved a change that we're going to make to the Randolph-Shepard. The rate share. You'll see it.
Okay.
And we'll look for you to have some comment about it, but it's going to standardize the rate instead of having these individual rates charged all over the place.
Okay, that's interesting.
And we're also,
that just came up.
yeah, and we're also talking about guidance surrounding measurable skills gain, but not a high-level policy. We're actually starting more guidance.
Yeah. And WinTech will help.
WinTech, yeah, they're supporting us with that.
After that. So, Abraham, it might be poignant when we have WinTech come in and talk about that, maybe have you sit at the table.
Okay.
So you can hear it. And
Sure.
if there's anything that you can add to that for us to keep us on track would be fine.
Okay.
And just to state, Martina Kramer is the policy analyst.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what I can do is create that being your point of contact for the SRC.
She kind of is. I mean, I've corresponded with her.
Okay.
More than a little, and I think she's keeping. I just wanted to make sure that I was.
But the door's always open to her as well. I just want to make sure.
And she's been good. I don't want to give the impression that she hasn't.
Yeah.
I was just checking.
And another thing she stated, just her previous experience, is that she wants to talk to the SRC about how they can be more involved in the front end of the policy development versus the back end. So that is something. She's my cubicle partner, so I can get a lot of stuff thrown at me. But that's one thing she stated she would like to
invite her to the next one.
Okay.
And just put her a spot on the agenda, and we can just kind of.
And yeah, just in terms of front end stuff, I know that I've only been doing this for about a year now, but in that time I've learned a lot about what the types of issues that the clients of RSA are facing. And granted, this is always something that's true. I say this every time I talk to anyone. I'm not seeing people who are having a great success full time with RSA. Those aren't the people who are coming to my office. I'm sure they exist. I know they exist because I see numbers about them existing. But I don't meet them oftentimes. So it would be useful for me to have sort of an active role on future policy like creation, because I think that I am seeing things that even maybe you're not seeing, because I know that your counselors are employees and you're supervising them just as well as anyone supervises anyone, I'm sure. But employees still do things that you don't know about and are communicating things in certain ways. So I hope to genuinely be a resource for you in that way, because it is sort of the same names frequently come across my desk, and I'm not ranting anyone out or anything like that, but I know that there are certain misconceptions amongst the counselors, and I feel like policy guidance could be a really important part of getting them on the same page as where they're supposed to be. So
I think that's great, and I would expect that when we have our policy committee meetings and we're introducing something, that you would have a voice there.
Absolutely.
And sit at the table.
Great.
So we'll make sure that happens.
Perfect.
Continues, because he was at our last
Yeah,
meeting.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Continues to happen.
Awesome. And just about the bylaws, is there anything you need for support? Or?
So no, I've only looked a little bit at them. They do look old. That's something I say. I'm not saying it's like written in like old-timey speak, but
folk language.
Pictures.
So anyway, I'll take a more thorough look, and the plan is that next time, at the very least, I hope to loop people in with it before the next meeting on just like sort of the big general changes that if anything pops out to me and is like, oh, this is obviously something that's not applicable or whatever. And also I would appreciate it if anybody else wanted to read through them at that time, when I bring this up closer, and just if anything pops out to you all that looks, weird, it would be good to know about that, just so we can be able to discuss it at the next meeting and then after that implement the actual bylaw changes.
And speaking of that, last year MODA changed the requirement for, I think, the council to be 21 members to 15, because I was really sweating about that, like how's that going to happen? So that's helpful, right? So we have, we're there almost, and with the names we have. So that's helpful. So just if you see that when you look at the bylaws.
I did see that.
Yeah. But that was really it on this end. I didn't know if you wanted to close out, Sharon.
Well, I don't think, I think we're in good shape. Does anybody want to make a motion to close the meeting?
Sure, I will, as a member.
Second.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Jonathan, thank you for your service.
Okay, Donald, fabulous as always.